Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. What a special treat for Mike and I today to be down at TPI. And even bigger treat to be joined by Stephanie Luttrell, JJ Van Wezenbeeck. Nice to see you guys.
Thanks.
Good to see you both.
Happy to be here with you.
Yeah, well, it was a really fun morning where I would say our heads are still spinning a little bit.
Yeah, this is like Christmas times 10. I love coming down here.
Yeah.
TPI is the best of the best.
Yeah, we, for a little context for you guys, we sort of got the experience of hitting the new product, then got the opportunity to find out why it was as good as it was. And I think in that sequence, it was even more impactful for us to sort of understand why you guys are calling this a generational technology and what has happened in the steps to take what was the best drivers in the market and take them even further beyond where they were. Incredible.
Yeah, it's one of those aspects of, you know, a lot of times the best way for you to experience is for us to show it to you, right? And then tell you about the technology and the engineering behind the technology.
Right. JJ, I mean, for you, the last, well, from our vantage point, it looks like the last month. It's really been the last 6 months since you got your tour staff, you know, your core group, and you were able to show them it. We saw a little bit on the trailer we just saw. Talk to us a little bit about just the reactions, some of the maybe the kind of interesting notes that they said about the new product.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first prototype was hit 6 years ago. Yeah. You know, we had Charlie Hoffman out here and we're like, no, remember this one that was these different colors and shapes? And he's like, yeah, I remember. That was like forever ago. And so you just see all the iterations coming together that when we kind of did with tour players the first time, we went the opposite direction of you all. Is we showed them the pieces, and it was kind of concerning because they have come to know a Titleist look and a Titleist feel. That how are you going to give me what I want with that? So the reaction's the first swing of going, wow, that feels like mine, looks like mine, and then seeing the launch monitor numbers of ball speed and the launch and spin, it is always kind of that cool reaction to see that player's face.
Steph, talk us through sort of the development phase of the model that was TSR, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, and what did you see as the opportunities to sort of tune that to be what we see in GT?
I think with every Metalwood platform and every driver design, we're always seeking a balanced design strategy. And when I say that, it's talking about not elevating one parameter, but how do we seek to enhance driver performance across all of the key parameters, whether it be club head speed, ball speed, launch and spin, overall consistency and forgiveness, as well as having best-in-class fitting tools. And so as we think about TSR and we think about how to build off from that, a lot of it is taking feedback that we get from JJ and Liam and our tour team, as well as the feedback that we get from the marketplace and understanding how consumers are already appreciating the performance of TSR. But ultimately, when it comes down to drivers, it has to have speed, it has to have distance, and it has to perform on a day in, day out basis. And so those are kind of the initial foundations of where do we go with it and how do we build upon TSR.
When you were taking us through in the presentation there, the sort of multiple pieces of the driver head as it is now, you know, obviously we're now starting to hear about sort of the proprietary matrix polymer.
Yeah,
okay,
you got it.
So we've got that, and carbon. We have seen that, but you guys felt like this was the right time to bring it into your driver sort of technology.
Yeah, as we talked about, how do we elevate all of those parameters? With GT, it started with aerodynamics. And as we started to explore head shaping and how could we reduce drag and improve club head speed, it really necessitated a new construction for us to accomplish and achieve our center of gravity goals and the inertial goals that we had with the product as well. And that's where the proprietary matrix polymer and the new construction came into play. Being able to wrap this material down onto the sole and being able to position the joint lines in such a way allows us to distribute the mass in a way that's more efficient, more effective, and it's allowing us to hit on all of those cylinders, gaining speed through aerodynamics as well as gaining speed through CG and inertial stability.
Yeah. When I first saw the initial kind of that first release date memorial, JJ, and I saw sort of the shape and the weight track now being forward on the 3. I loved that sort of you could see a breakthrough had been made to bring the center of gravity further forward, bring that track, that surefoot track used to be in the back, and that now lives forward. We've seen tracks being a little bit further forward on other drivers, but you see the exposure of it. And then to hear Steph and Tom talk about, yeah, we've got our sort of performance attributes downrange, but really the aerodynamics of how we achieved that was another breakthrough in the design.
Yeah, I think that was a really cool part of this, is that we didn't start trying to make a polymer crown. We started with aerodynamics and a CG target, and then it was, how do you hit both those? We have an aerodynamicist that's saying, I can make you swing the golf club faster. Yeah. Stephanie, your team has a CG target that's gonna help club speed, launch, and spin. Okay, now how do we build it? You're working with those targets first. You're not trying to put something in to put it in. You're trying to get better performance for the player.
Do you guys feel that with GT, a little nod back to TS and to TSI and to TSR, that GT could only become what it has become from the foundation that was laid from TS into TSI and TSR, and how good they were to lead us to this today?
Yeah, GT, it's authentic to Titleist Metalwood's mission, which is about complete driver performance. It's how do we elevate speed and consistency and bring it on all levels. And so I absolutely think without the Titleist Speed project and those builds, we had to learn those things, and we continue to learn and continue to build upon it. And in GT, and generational technology is the next evolution of that.
I think the biggest takeaway too today, when we were testing them ourselves, that VFT, like the importance of VFT. I think even in the fitting bay as a fitter, or for our fitters, they need to speak more on that, because we test in, we're not perfect, we're not hitting it out of the center every time, but how consistent speed was on and we tested every driver, right? So how consistent it was on 3, 2, and 4 was just insane. How much better VFT's gotten over the last couple kind of iterations.
Yeah, that combination of no stone left unturned, right? Every single generation, we're trying to think about the combination, and it's a fun challenge for us as engineers. So thinking about the material, right? And how do we maximize the potential of the material, as well as marrying it with key technologies. So having the speed ring technology, which is helping us to deliver more ball speed on center. But then, Mike, as you said, marrying that with the very thin VFT perimeter is just expanding that sweet spot size. So it's great to see that you saw it. We've seen it with JJ and his players in terms of the demonstration of the speed consistency. And that's one of those elements that players not only want to hit their longest drive long, but they want to hit all drives longer. And so with GT, we see that. We see the downrange distance really being pulled closer to your longest drive.
I thought it was fascinating in your fitting with Chris. And we kind of said to Chris, we teed up that you're a very efficient driver of the golf ball. Hit most of your fairways. You get it out there a really good distance. Good luck making this better, but it was apparent within probably less than 10 shots how much better it could be, and it was actually taking you out of the model you were in, TSR3, and into GT2, and how a little bit of, from where that CG was placed a little bit deeper, how you could get that face to rotate a little bit quicker, just to match up your face-to-path relationship and gain speed, stability of launch and spin. I thought that was really fascinating.
The consistency of the miss hit. I'm going to miss it more than I'm going to strike it. So when we were talking about that north-south, the dispersion out there was light years better. So it was an easy switch.
Steph, maybe we'll run through the models a little bit in terms of in development. So start maybe at 2. So what did you feel like were the challenges to get TSR2 into being GT2?
Yeah, well, we think of TSR2 and the 2 platform, that player. It's that player that is the player that perhaps misses it more across the entire face, right? So the goal and objective for us as we think about the 2 is how do we provide maximum stability, but do it in a way that also delivers speed. And so for us, we felt like we had hit that quotient of having the appropriate amount of stability with TSR2. So we weren't seeking to really increase stability, but really, how do we make this faster and more consistently fast? And so the combination of how we've used the construction to be able to drive head aerodynamics, to be able to drive our CG slightly forward and lower and align it closer with neutral axis, that's allowing us to deliver higher launch and lower spin, and as well as maintaining that stability. So not only is it faster, it's consistently fast. And so for all-around playability, GT2 is our best option.
Well, in a sort of year of driver launches where we've been flooded with information as to why higher inertia is going to be better, and you guys have stayed very true to the path of the 2 model, which is stable, fast, aerodynamic. You've not stopped upon one way of making the driver better in the forgiveness sense or stability sense. You've layered around a very stable profile and got multiple wins around that as well.
Yeah, part of the beauty of this construction and how it helps us to unlock performance is the fact that we are able to discreetly place mass low and forward, and then also in the aft portion of the head. And in doing that, we're able to maintain a CG position that helps players be fast, deliver it with greater club head speed, deliver it with greater ball speed. But you do that without compromising on the up-down face consistency as well as the heel-toe face consistency. So on miss hits, I think you've seen exceptional performance with Cam Young tested this, as well as Gordon Sargent and Ludwig, and they've seen incredible ball speed and spin consistency across the face on it as well.
Yeah, I think that's what, when we look at the 2, it is partially, you both have seen it in terms of depth and fitting. We're using fitting to kind of control that direction, and now we're using the technology to control that north-south. So sometimes that direction isn't just a number, it's a performance in how that plays. And so like a Jordan Spieth, if we get that CG too far close to the face, he has trouble stabilizing it. When that CG's deep where that GT2 is, it delivers it very consistently. And so that's what we want to use. And so we have, the higher launch as well. Zalatoris needs a higher launching product to make sure he's not making swings that affect his back. And so we're using that product to control those variables from a depth and launch, and we need speed still in those parameters.
I remember, and I can't believe it's been 2 years ago since we sat here talking about TSR3. The remit on TSR3 from Tour to Steph was leave it alone. I remember, specifically, Steph went to you guys, yourself and Liam, and said, what would you like the 3 profile to be this year? What did you love and what would you like us to change? And there was so much from that was from you guys was, please just leave it alone. We love what TSI3 was, but the team delivered a higher level of performance, more ball speed from 3. What was the conversation around getting towards GT3?
Yeah, I think, you talked about, hey, did you build off TS and TSI and TSR? The answer is yes. When you're the #1 driver on tour for a number of years in a row, there are certain things that we need to control, whether it's the looks of the club. And I think Stephanie and I nerd out on this corner of the golf club and that corner of the golf club way too many hours than we're probably comfortable telling people.
Just making sure it looks beautiful.
So we really want that confidence-inspiring look that players tend to like. So we really nailed it in the last couple iterations. So we want to try to make sure we're providing players speed, forgiveness, good launch to spin ratios with giving that confidence-inspiring and address. So in the 3 model, we definitely press the team to find those variables without controlling, that shape a little bit.
You were very polite. I think there was more colorful language about, please don't mess this up. This model it's probably globally renowned as being the most played model on the global tour spectrum. And JJ and our global tour teams have done an excellent job utilizing the technology in TSR3. So for us, as an engineering group, it was an extreme challenge of how do you make the best tour driver in the world even better? And really it comes down to what all players want. They want to see more speed, but they also want to see great trajectory out of it. And so for us, with our center of gravity goals, we were able to accomplish that. Slightly higher launch, slightly lower spin, more carry distance out of GT3 versus TSR3. So it's taking that best driver and just elevating it to the next level.
So guys, one of the things I love, JD, you touched on it there with Will Zalatoris, is that from a dry and a fitting and the options you have within the Metalwood line now, the way you guys think about it is not just from a driver performance downrange, there's a total performance element to this. And I want to look at the face a little bit on what you've done and what you're working on with some of the players to highlight the face in order to sort of show a little bit more loft and sort of have an influence on their delivery from that.
Yeah, we kind of talked about during your fitting you know, in that GT3 of, hey, we listen to Dave Phillips and Greg Rose and Mark Blackburn's of the world on what they're teaching players from a swing standpoint. And one of those modern things is to make sure we're not trying to create launch. And so what we were finding is we were actually doing some visualization alignment tools in Silver Sharpie for players to help make it look loftier, but also frame the ball and help them aim. And so in that sense is we go back to Stephanie and show her our arts and craft projects and go to the ID team and say, hey, can there be even visual enhancement that's just gonna allow the player to set it behind the ball, confidently aim, and then feel like they can react rather than trying to make the club work.
You were saying you were doing some things with some shapes, and you were literally seeing people's delivery change relative to what they were seeing.
Yeah, Fairway Woods, it's very dramatic when we see whether it's TSI graphics or TSR, now GT graphics, is you'll just see deliveries change. And so one of the things we do with tour players is it's very big on a team approach. So we're gonna look to their coach and say, is that the delivery we want? I know what launch conditions we want to create for that player. So, you know, Max Homa's a perfect example. You know, we were always, hey, if we loft down in TSR, we're getting a little bit, not enough loft where his swing creeps in and we get a little bit of a bigger miss. When we loft up, we get a situation where it's a little spinny and we're giving things up. With GT3 for Max, we didn't have to compromise on any of those.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's such an appropriate topic to touch on as we sit at TPI with all of this sort of contribution that goes into performance at this unbelievable driving range. And just when I hear all of you come together and all the input and all the marginal gains that you subtract from one another and then add it all into the package, it really is impressive to see how much of a team effort it is to see a product like this come to fruition.
Yeah, it's one of the beauties of the fact that we have our 2-year product life cycles is it gives my team and our team in the R&D space the opportunity to close that feedback loop, to have time with JJ and Liam and our tour players, to have time with our product specialists who are working with consumer fittings on a day in, day out basis to gather that information. And obviously if the feedback comes into us as engineers, and it's our job then to interpret that, right? To say, how do we help that to make a better 2, to make a better 3, to make a better 4? And that's always the beauty of this job and the challenge. And a lot of us are all golfers, so we find a lot of enjoyment about how do we execute on that strategy as well.
So GT4, last time it was introduced, and you know, I remember hearing Liam talk about it. Like he was adamant he needed that for the European Tour, and he needed that for his guys out there to have the ability to sort of bring, you know, the launch and spin down a little bit should they play in some slightly windier conditions. But the versatility of GT4 has increased even further.
Yeah, the 4 is still kind of that really classic. It's a smaller volume head in our lineup. It's essentially a smaller version of a GT3, but I'm incredibly excited about the versatility that we brought into it now. We still are maintaining our 4-aft CG adjustability like you mentioned, but now obviously heavyweight forward, it's intended to be that ultra low spin killer for that player that is more in the bend-on type of category, loves to launch it high, loves to see it spin low, but now when you go and you flip that heavyweight to the back, because of how we've repositioned center gravities on the 2 and the 3 model, you actually end up with a CG that lands a little bit between the 2. So for that player that needs launch and spin performance between a 3 and a 2, or inertial stability between a 3 and a 2, you can accomplish that in this smaller traditional head shape. And I think it just opens up more opportunity, more fitting flexibility and consideration for the 4 in the line.
JJ, when we started our fit, you kind of started the process with, okay, I just want you to see them. Okay, so here's the 3, tell me what you see, and we were able to kind of figure out which one was which, but it was amazing how visually, I feel like they've gotten a bit closer visually, but from a versatility standpoint, I feel like they've gotten further apart. So you kind of can have people switch in and around the heads based on the visual. You're still very comfortable, but from a fitting perspective, you have a wider end-to-end range now.
Yeah, so that was definitely one of the asks. I mean, one of the hard meetings was this driver. We said, yep, can we get rid of that? And Stephanie gave the worst answer, which was, it's really hard. I'm like, that sounded like not a no.
Yeah.
So it was, okay, how do we make this clean, classic, look. And Charlie Hoffman's line here is, there's no reason to not love it when you start. When you get a lot of contrasting lines and shapes and colors on the crown, they can be distracting. So it's, hey, it might work, but it's gonna take getting used to. There's no getting used to, there's no break-in. And so that's the part there, is we were allowed to have the fit and the performance drive where we end up, not going, well, I like the look of that model, but this one's performing better. How do I get used to it?
You saw that in your fit, didn't you? You were able to go from your TSR3 into 2 so seamlessly.
Yeah, so easy. The shapes are so close together. I found, obviously, TSR2 a little long in the back, but you look down at both of them and yeah, easy transition. Which is good for the consumer too, because there's gonna be, I've got customers top of my head that they wanna play TSR4, they wanna play TSR3, and you show them the numbers and you're like, no, you need to be in TSR2, and now they can go into those shapes and they're gonna love the look of them.
Yeah, our favorite one was prototype testing with Max Homa. He's hitting the 2, and at the end of hitting a few shots, he's like, hey, can I hit the 2 version? Like, well, that's what you've been hitting, Max. He thought he was hitting the 3.
Yeah.
And so it was great for, you know, a longtime 3 user to just feel that confident in the shaping. Was just that classic Titleist look and feel and sound.
And that comes back into that feedback loop of how, you know, JJ and our teams interact. We work diligently on shaping to refine kind of that toe shape, as he was mentioning, to really get those classic profiles that all players can set behind a golf ball with confidence.
So obviously incredible developments with driver, but I do want to spend a little bit of time in Fairway Wood as well, because I think with Chris from Chris and JJ specifically, they both said this is where really big advancements have happened.
I think it's probably the most surprise and delight, right? Because players expect more speed out of drivers. They expect it to be consistent. And we've built that pedigree over the years with the Titleist Speed project as well. But with Fairway Woods, I don't know of a single player that doesn't want to see the ball get up in the air. And that, Tom Bennett, who's on our team, that was our objective with the design engineers, is how do we execute a design and a construction that allows us to just make the ball get into a window that you wouldn't have expected. And I think you saw that today in your fitting, right?
I was looking for it and it wasn't there, it was up there.
When I think that's the interesting part that Tom worked so hard in getting the CGs on these, is it's early height, not late height. So many of us are seeing that 38, 4,000 spin, it's high late, and now it's not spin, it's launch. And so seeing that height early is where players' eyes, they're on the horizon and they're like, nope, that's at 11, not 8.
It's that first third height is
Yeah.
it just initially surprises you. So Steph, tell us a little bit about, if you can, the construction, how this is developed.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the technologies draft off from what we learned and put into place with the drivers as well. So we're using the PMP crown, but we're using it in a different way. So because it's replacing stainless steel, the density advantage of this material is more significant for us. So it's allowing us in the GT Fairway Woods to achieve our lowest center of gravities ever with great inertial stability. But we're also pairing that with the fact that we wanted to really develop better feel and launch and spin and speed off from low face impact. So we're now introducing, for the first time in our global line, an L-cup face geometry. And this L-cup, made out of 465, is allowing us to wrap it down under the sole, and it gives us more compliance there. So really what we've seen out of that and what it translates to in terms of player use is that you're going to see better ball speeds on turf shots. And because of that, you're going to see more consistent distance. You pair that with the low CG, you're getting high launch with really great spin characteristics, as JJ mentioned, with exceptional speed. So all in all, I think, you know, these Fairway Woods, I'm excited for players to get to experience them because I think they will be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, we saw something in Mike's fitting that, and actually we both ended up in the same mix of heads, but I don't think we would ever have seen a situation in the past where you would have had a 2 model as your 3 wood and a 3 model as your 4/5 wood, but we both ended up in that way. You would maybe have went the other way, you know, 3 to be powerful, penetrating and kind of tee and turf, but then go into the 2 model because it's going to launch a little bit easier, a little bit higher, more friendly, but it's kind of almost, you know, it flipped around because of the nature of that 13.5.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is for folks to go see you all, is that these are different, is you are going to see those different launch performances. I think hopefully, you know, our turf's really tight here right now. You saw how easy it was to launch that 13.5, is that there's not a preconceived notion of the loft, is let that fit drive it. That was another fun meeting with Tom and Liam on the floor, pointing out different geometries of the face and getting that to sit really tight to the ground and really kind of expand the face and where misses are on the face, and just see those performance on the turf and inside.
Yeah, I think the launch, especially on 13.5, I came with a gamer and thought, I've had the gamer for a few seasons, like no chance. You know, I'm not confident with the Fairway Wood, especially a 3-wood. And put me in a 13.5 and the launch goes, you know, I would call to the moon in a way, but it still, you know, spins. You still have enough land angle to, if I do need to actually hit it towards a green. You could have told me this 2 years ago, I would have said there's no chance you're going to launch a 3-wood as high as you are. So for the fitting bay, for customers, I'm excited to get in there.
And I think one of the things of how we design our Fairway Woods too is that we look at each of them as unique models. So that 13.5 model, it really drafted off from some of our learnings from the TSR2 Plus. So it still is that larger footprint, more confidence inspiring. We know players that use the 13.5 are more likely to use it off the tee condition, but it still needs to be very playable off the turf. And then as you move into like the 15 and the 16.5, which are, you know, quintessentially the more traditional 3-woods or 4-wood replacements, those, you know, shrink down a little bit in size to be more playable off the turf. And then you move into the 5 and the 7-wood, and you just see that gradual shaping, and each one of them designed with unique center of gravity properties to really accomplish the goals of hitting specific distances, trajectories, and also to provide gapping solutions.
Well, guys, I mean, what a treat it's been to have both of you with us today to do this, to run it down, to break it down like we have done here and really get into the weeds. It's what we love to do when we get down here. I say I can't believe it's been 2 years since we've done it previously, and I can't wait. Can't believe we have to wait 2 years to do it again. That's the only thing with doing these. We love it so much. It's like I can't wait for the next one already. But thank you for having us down, spending the time with us, making TPI available to us. It really is a highlight of our year too.
We're really appreciative of your support, and we're excited to hear your feedback about GT on the course.
Exactly. And guys, ultimately, everything we're talking about here is for you guys. This is going to be products that we cannot wait to get in the fitting bay for you guys. It's going to give us more options that are going to help your game. You know, if you've seen performance from previous Titleist Woods, just make a point of going in and testing them against the new line, the new GT line. I mean, you don't get a company like Titleist calling something a generational technology unless they truly will stand behind it and they know that it's going to perform. So from that standpoint, you're going to get gains, you're going to see performance, and it's all about allowing a fitter to unlock that for you and ultimately select the right head, shaft, grip, length, build that is going to help your game the most.
100%.
Great stuff. Okay, thanks so much for joining us, guys. Take care. We'll see you again soon.